It doesn't take someone to have a magic ball to have predicted this. All you needed is a brain and a couple of brain cells, as now we have Ant-Man 3 having the biggest drop for a Marvel movie in its second weekend. If this doesn't spell disaster, I don't know what does, because you have Ant-Man 3 kicking off Marvel's Phase 5 and it's already failing at the box office. That just speaks volume, and you also have to keep in mind that this movie costed $200 million, being the most expensive movie of the Ant-Man trilogy without marketing being added to it. Also, having a Super Bowl ad that added an easy $10 million to the budget. Yet Marvel can't seem to pay or afford VFX artists for their movies, but continue to either overwork them or underpay them. And the funny thing is that a week ago you had all these media sites and articles praising Ant-Man 3 for beating the previous two Ant-Man movies, without actually diving in and seeing just how much more Ant-Man 3 costed to produce, having an extra $70 million budget compared to Ant-Man 2. Ain't that something? Here's a studio that was granted an extra $70 million for their third installment of an Ant-Man movie, and yet the visuals look god-awful for that type of budget. While on the topic of bad visuals, Marvel decided to make this poster of MODOK, who I still think looks like caca in it. It is something to see a studio praise crappy quality. For sake, in the movie they showed us MODOK's two back cheeks that were glistening in the light. Who the hell asked for that? And why was that needed? I'll never understand it, but it does seem as if they focused more on MODOK's visuals in his naked scene rather than his face, which you see more throughout the movie, and not them two cheeks in the back. To which the movie is having a 70 to 72% drop. God damn! Making it one of MCU's worst drops ever when it comes to their movies. This is what happens when mass quantities being pushed out with having lower quality in these movies and shows. People are just sick of it, which is why we are seeing The Boys on Amazon succeed, because the quality is there and it's not just another generic good guys win over the bad guys, which is what we have seen countless of times when it comes to Marvel. That type of storyline and plot shouldn't have been for this movie, and yet they made it. They needed to have had this movie have a much darker ending, but of course, they decided not to. And it's something to see the first MCU film that kicks off Phase 5 beating Black Widow's drop of 67.8% and Thor Love and Thunder's drop of 67.7%. To me, Black Widow shouldn't have been released, especially when you had her die in Endgame. What was the point in making a movie based off her character when we saw her die? I'll never understand that decision. If anything, they needed to have released it before Endgame. And something that these films don't have in common with Ant-Man 3 is that they never had a Chinese release. Whereas Ant-Man 3 got just that and has had poor performances even over there. It speaks volume because the last Chinese release was Spider-Man Far From Home from Marvel, which was released in China back in 2019, 4 years ago. You would expect with Ant-Man 3 being one of the first Marvel releases in China in almost a half a decade that many Chinese citizens would want to see it. Too bad that doesn't seem to be the case, as fatigue is continuing to set in everywhere throughout the world when it comes to Marvel. As China was supposed to be Marvel's savior, even having Marvel teaching their actors how to behave in China, which is absolutely disgusting. And then when you have fans wanting to have these beloved characters return, such as Captain America and Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, because they made Marvel, but yet you have Marvel saying that they are off the table. Everything that Marvel should be doing, they aren't doing it, and it's biting them, which is rightfully deserved. And the more they keep doing this to themselves and not bringing characters that people want to see on the screen, they're going to continue to fade slowly but surely. And we are seeing this with Marvel's box office numbers. They may still be making profits, but it's continuing to diminish as each release goes by. You also have to keep in mind that ticket prices have gone up with inflation, making many of these movies appear as if they are making more money than their predecessors, when that isn't the case. As most of the time when it comes to these articles, they don't adjust inflation with previous movies, and with that, there is a lower turnout in movie-going audiences for these films. Which leads to the delays, which is not a surprise. They have Marvel delaying so many damn things. Captain Marvel 2, shows like Agatha, Coven of Whatever, Ironheart, and the Marvels. No one wants to see these characters, and yet we have Marvel continue to focus on unwanted characters rather than fan favorites. And they know they were digging themselves in a hole, and the more they dig, the harder it will be for them to get out of it, which is why we're seeing these delays taking place. And many of these delays are either from quality issues or the shows needing reshoots. Once again, adding onto that budget even more. And that's the problem with today's movies. They are given unlimited amounts of cash for these budgets, something that films from previous decades didn't have, and actually had to have their directors find creative ways to cut costs but still retain quality. With all that, I'd like to know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.